Can you briefly explain how the production of meat, eggs, and dairy products has changed over the last 50 years?
Yes, until about the middle of the last century, up to the 1940s and 50s, most of the products in this country in agriculture were produced on small, relatively small family-based farming operations where you had a family that lived on a farm and the family provided most of the labor and the family made all of the decisions. And there were relatively small operations that included both livestock and crops on the same farm, because up until then most of the fertilization of the crops came from the waste or the manure from the livestock operations. So you had integrated crop and livestock operations. Mm-hmm. But then after World War II, the technologies that came out of that were, particularly the pesticides and the fertilizers, allowed farmers then to specialize in producing crops on a particular farm. And so that allowed them to separate the livestock production from the crop production. And they began to follow what I call kind of the industrial model of specialization. So very quickly then, over the next few decades, that we begin to see livestock operations move not in just livestock operations, but specifically cattle or sheep or hogs or chickens, where all those had been on the same farm before. They were on different farms and specialized, and the crops were specialized into corn and soybeans and so on. And in the livestock operations, they moved eventually into these large concentrated animal feeding operations, where you have thousands of animals that are produced in a confinement situation where they're either kept indoors or kept in feedlots that are very closely confined. Even though most of the farms, number-wise, in the country are still relatively small and many of them are diversified, most of our agricultural production comes out of these large specialized crop and livestock operations.